welcome back to the Ugly Chairs podcast. Today I'm joined by
Drew Williams
and Adam Bixby.
Awesome. So I want to start us off with, these are the ugly chairs.
They are.
Which chair do you guys think is the ugliest?
Yours.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
hers is so regal though. It's got it's a stately.
I do kind of feel fancy in it.
Have you seen the King's Speech? Kind of reminds me of that.
oh, I was going like Martha Washington vibes.
Mine has kind of a weird color. I think mine's not actually that ugly, but the color is bad.
Oh,
It's
I
coming
really
back.
like that color. That's why I picked it.
Yeah, olive? Is that what we're calling olive?
It is definitely an
Yeah.
olive.
It's beautiful.
I
I don't like olive. I like the color. I don't like the food.
What?
That's a little something about me.
That is, I like that little something.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Well, okay. So we think it's mine. Mine's regal and ugly.
It has wings.
I don't know. Drew's is ugly. His has like little curtains on the bottom.
Yeah,
Only thing I want to see curtains on, my windows, not my chairs.
I think I agree with that.
Fair enough, fair enough. I'm just glad we finally get to see you in the chair, and you do a better impression of you than I do. So
I do better. That's what I do every day. I wake
Yeah.
up and I'll be like, impression of Drew. Here, let's do this.
you're really killing it. You're doing awesome.
He's never lived an authentic day in his life. He's just thinking, what would Drew do?
I can't wait to be real.
Okay, well, we're going to start off with a little game. So it is called blind ranking. So what you guys are going to do is I'm going to list some words or phrases one by one that cause anxiety or cause people anxiety. And I need you guys to rank them. Number 1 being the thing that would make you the most anxious, and number 5 being the thing that makes you the least anxious.
Okay.
Individual rankings, team rankings.
Well, you have to decide.
Okay.
Well, we both work together.
So team
Yeah.
rankings. Okay, we can do that.
Okay. So, and you're going to have to remember a little bit. We'll go with the first one. Okay. So, getting old. Does that make you anxious? Does it not make you anxious?
It makes me anxious.
Yeah? You're younger than I am.
I know, but just maybe that's part of it.
3?
We don't know what we're guessing.
I know. I think the first one's the hardest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's kind of the fun of it. So you're going to go with 3?
I kind of...
A nice middle of the road?
I think they're going to get worse.
2.
Yeah, I think 2. Let's go with 2.
No, if they're going to get worse, then we should go 4.
One's the most anxious?
Yes.
Oh, 4, yeah.
4.
Okay,
Yeah,
4.
we'll slide it into 4.
Okay. So getting old is 4th.
Okay.
What about job security?
Nah.
Yeah, I think 5.
Yeah, I don't get anxious.
Unless
about
I'm really bad at this podcast thing, then it moves up the list pretty quickly.
it. God's got me. I'm going with 5.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Finding the right person to date. I know this is what a lot of our high schoolers find to be super anxious.
I mean,
Drew, you succeeded.
yeah.
You're
yeah,
married.
way to kill it.
Been married
Crushed it.
11 years and have a child.
Okay, but like back
So
in the day.
37.
Okay, so back in the day.
Okay, back in the day. A long time ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Eons ago.
I thought about it quite often.
Yeah, it crossed my mind a lot. I don't know if I get anxious about it.
3?
Yeah, I think this is a 3. I would, if I could go back, I know I can't now. Going old is probably higher on this list than finding someone to date.
But we can't go
That's
back.
the fun of it.
Yeah, this is blind.
I'm
That's
so
the blind
excited.
Why did we do this?
part. Mistakes
Is
were
it
made.
making you anxious?
Yeah, number 1, lists.
Okay, so
3. I
Three-
think,
three
yeah,
is
we're going to
the
lock
move.
3, finding the right person.
so least anxious is job security. Next is getting old. Next is finding the right person to date. So where does having a good dress sense fall?
It's pretty high for me.
I don't wear dresses, so pretty low.
You're-
Not that
you're
there's
talking about-
anything wrong with that.
You're talking about like getting fits off. Like
Yeah.
how important is it? Yeah, that's pretty important
Like
to me.
looking
And if I look
nice.
bad, that's bad. Getting anxious.
I dress like I did in high school.
Yeah, respect.
I think I'm stuck. And I have a lot of anxiety about that right now. I was like, oh, a t-shirt. Yep, 07.
Nice.
7.
Okay, so number 1 or number 2?
I think we go 1. I think about it all the time. I'm bald.
Yeah, let's go with 1.
It's a thing.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
1.
number 1.
Yeah, 1.
Because that includes like just your all around appearance.
Yeah, a fitness level,
Yeah.
hair, shoes.
I don't think anything's gonna top that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm there. That's 1.
Okay, so what you guys then say is the second most thing that makes you anxious is your pet's health.
No, we failed. This is bad. I don't have pets.
If I had known that one was coming, it would certainly not have been the second.
Well,
do you
that's
have a
all
pet?
part of the
My
game.
roommate has a dog. She's a big Alaskan Malamute. I've never worried
The
about
dog
her
is.
health. Yeah. Not my roommate. My roommate is a man. He's 29.
Okay, so now that you
Shut
guys understand what's going on, we're gonna try again one more time. Do you feel like
We're so bad at this.
you feel like you're gonna maybe succeed?
All right,
Yeah.
we got this. We got
It's a
this.
new,
Okay.
yeah.
New
Yeah,
list.
this is a whole new list.
Got it.
They are things that really make me anxious. So
Okay.
you're getting inside of my brain now. Okay, so number 1, being stuck outside during a storm.
We're ranking that.
Yeah.
What kind of storm?
Like a thunderstorm. Like there's lightning, there's thunder, maybe there's a tornado warning. You're getting your phone is
it's like
buzzing.
bad. It's
Yeah.
not like splashing in the puddles.
No.
Okay.
Nah, it doesn't make me anxious.
I feel like
be
we need to
quaking
be
in my
smart.
boots.
I'm afraid to go 4 again because we did that last time and it kind of came back to not be great. I think there's going to be something that
Something less.
not big. If we lived in a place like Oklahoma, I'm sure this is like
That's true.
1, 2,
That's true. Ever at Florida, hurricanes.
yeah,
Let's go with 3. Put it right in the middle.
right in the middle. 3.
that's a good
Fear
option.
of storms.
Okay. So, number 2. Another thing I'm super embarrassed and anxious about all the time.
Maybe number 2.
Embarrassing yourself in front of a group.
Yeah,
Oh,
hi.
1.
I do it often, and it always makes me anxious.
I feel like I'm doing it right now.
This is
I'll say 1 with that
Yeah.
one,
the
too.
moment. Okay.
yeah,
think
number
that
1.
Okay, the next one is having your card decline.
Nah, doesn't make me anxious because I have another card. Pull that out.
I think I go. I think I
Apple
go
Pay.
5. I
Yeah.
think it's common enough, and if that happened to someone else, I don't think my first thought would be like they're broke.
Right. Yeah, because that would be the part that makes you anxious about it, is like people assume it's because I have no money. I've overdrawn my bank account or
And
whatever.
it's super interesting that the anxiety comes from what other people think about you. You're not thinking, is there fraud on my bank account? That
Right.
should be an anxiety thing. It's like, what's the cashier going to think of me
Yeah.
that I'm probably never going to see again?
Broke.
Facts.
Okay.
5.
So that
Yeah,
one's
I'm
a
going to go
5?
5 on that one.
Okay. So we have the first is embarrassing yourself. Number 3 is being in a storm, and 5.
Oh, we got all the odds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you have 2 and 4 left. Whew. Okay. The next one is your house being messy.
It is, and it does not make me anxious.
Okay.
4 for me. What do you 4? I don't. I'm just assuming that you also.
I know. I'm trying to put it through the lens of it's our house. It's not my house. Like I share it with my wife, and this would be very high for her. And so I think it's like made me think that way because I love her, so I want to pick up. But I think 4. If I'm thinking just me, I'm not putting any of that into the equation.
4.
I'll go 4. I'm worried about what 2 is. It's going to be like
It's gonna be something.
it's going to be something ridiculous that I'm not worried about at all. Man, we failed again.
Okay. Well, speaking of failing, the last one is failing a major project.
Oh,
That's great too.
too.
Yes,
Okay,
honestly,
so
that-
you actually did well.
we did
I
good.
think we did it right. Yeah.
No one likes failing. A major minor project, maybe a 3 or 4. Major project, definitely
If you
2.
consider this game a major project, we succeeded. So, failure averted.
Great job. Okay, do you want to do one more?
Yeah, I'm having a blast.
Okay.
I love lists.
I'm sure. Okay, this one is more, these are just things that commonly make people feel anxious. So these are like within the top 10 of the things that people have anxiety over.
Drew, let's not think about it. Speed round.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, wow.
Instant answers.
Yep.
Okay, number 1,
3.
change.
Change.
Oh, that's high. 2.
2.
2, 2, 2, 2, 2.
2, okay. Being judged.
1.
1.
Yep, 1.
Okay. Getting hurt by someone you loved or love. Yeah, now you messed up your list.
Hey, we went too quick.
4. You okay with 4?
Even
I'm
a
okay.
3? I mean, the last 2 are kind of.
They're doozies. I think they're getting
I feel like
worse.
they're all gonna be bad.
Oh no, the next one is failure.
Just the idea.
Yeah, just straight up failure.
1B?
Yeah.
Can we
That's
do
not
that?
an option.
If 3 is our highest, let's go with 3.
Yeah, 3.
Okay. Rejection is the last one.
Number 5.
Can all of these be 1? This list is.
I told you it was going to be a hard one.
Yeah,
These are the top ones.
that was the one to do the speed round on.
They're tough.
Well, that made me anxious, first of all. So thank you guys for absolutely failing at that list. So we're going to take it a little serious, more serious now. So before we even start this, I just want to say we are not experts on anxiety. We don't know everything. We're not counselors. We're not psychologists. I took like a couple psychology classes in college. I was trying to think. But that's about it. Yeah. So please, if you actually need to talk to someone, like go to your campus staff. They have resources to find you a good place to go to counseling. Yeah. So what advice would you guys give to someone who is struggling with anxiety?
I think you just said it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Rushed it.
Finding a good counselor. Like there are people that are trained to like help you process feelings and emotions and thoughts. And I don't know. I think it is a learned skill that maybe, I know I didn't learn early on in life. Like I was just like, I'm feeling this thing. I can't put words to it. And then I went to a counselor and they helped me put words to feelings and emotions. And I was able to
compartmentalize.
Thank you. Put in categories, words. So yeah, I think that would be one of the ones that I would first say is like, hey, have you thought about talking to a professional about this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I guess I would want to know if they have a relationship with Jesus, because I think that changes a lot about how you deal with anxiety. But the other thing someone told me one time was that life isn't a one-player game. And what they meant was you can't actually like live a successful life if you're just trying to play it by yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really true for anxiety. A lot of our best help, I think, comes from just other people around us who can help share the burdens that we aren't meant to carry on our own.
Yeah.
So who would you go to then? Like, who are some of those people?
Well, I think counselor, like that, I think that's number one, someone who's a professional, trained, but also people who share your faith, people who share your values. Yeah, just people who are on your team, you know, people that you know are going to stand up for you. Your ride or dies, your day ones.
Yeah.
Got to find them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the thing that I wish someone first told me, like in high school, I started having anxiety pretty bad. And I wish someone would have just said like, you're not alone, and not like, oh, it's not just a you problem, but because that's kind of condescending, but like, you don't have to be alone in this. Like, yeah, you can find people to talk to, but also like know that this isn't only a thing that you're experiencing. Like, that's you good, can talk to other people about it because they've gone through it. Like, I didn't realize that until I went to college. And like one of my best friends, she had really bad anxiety too. And our anxieties kind of came from the same like root. So it was really helpful because we could talk about it and be like, oh my gosh, like this isn't just a me problem and I don't have to handle it alone. Yeah. And that is something that like really was hard for me because I don't like to talk about my problems with people. I don't want to share my burdens with people because I feel like it's going to burden them. Mm-hmm. So that was like a huge hurdle that I had to get over. But I think that's exactly what I wish someone would have told me when I was in high school.
That's good.
I think it's good to know what anxiety is. Mm-hmm. Like I think growing up, I experienced some anxiety, but didn't know to call it anxiety or didn't even realize the like full extent of it. It was more of just like I think I'm stressed or sad or just like I need to toughen up. Like I don't know if that's like even something someone told me.
Yeah.
I think I saw it modeled for me and I just thought like, oh, I just need to get over this or walk it off or however you want to say it.
I feel like there's so much value in just naming the way that you're feeling, like coming up with a way to like, because everybody feels some type of way, but so many of us go through life never really knowing what to even call what we're feeling. Yeah. I think that's a good point.
Well, I think there's a big difference just having anxiety and being anxious. Mm. Like I think all of us can feel anxious in certain moments. And then other people have it super heightened and can have anxiety attacks. And all of us can acknowledge that we feel anxious in certain moments. But other people just experience it on a really high level, but it is a common feeling that all of us have. But if you don't know how to name it, then that's kind of a challenge,
Right.
to even talking about it.
Can you say more about that? Because I don't know if I know the difference between someone who has anxiety, feels anxious. I have felt anxious, but I don't think I've experienced anxiety. I'm not sure. Tell me more about that, though.
Yeah. I'm not, like I said, a psychologist, so don't quote me on this. You can talk to Mr. Webster, the dictionary, if you have a real...
Marion.
No, Webster.
I think it was two people,
Merriam
Mr.
Webster.
Merriam and Mr. Webster.
Oh, they work together.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I don't actually know.
Oh, sorry.
Didn't talk to the dictionary guy before this. I think like just being anxious is if you're in a situation and you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't feel great about this. Like maybe you're feeling a little bit of stress and it's just like kind of there in the back of your mind. Like I think about, like I ran track in high school. Before a meet, when I'm on the line and the gun's about to go off, I'm anxious. Like, am I going to make it over the hurdle? Am I going to look stupid? Am I going to like place? Am I going to help my team score points? But that's not anxiety. Anxiety would be all day. It's making my body feel a type of way that like it's not going out of my brain. For me, that would mean that like my heart rate would be going up and down constantly. Like I get kind of shortness of breath. Sometimes I physically can't move. So that would be like the one extent, like the extreme side of it versus being like, this is like a fleeting, I'm stressed in this moment and I feel anxious, but it's going to quickly go away.
So it's like the level to which you are anxious, but then also the length of time that you're anxious,
I don't know if that's like a clinical definition, but that's how I think of, oh, this is something that like I need to then address with my counselor, or this was just like, oh, it's just like this little thing and I have the tools to like maneuver my way through that.
Cool. That's super helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's really helpful. Because you said before track meet, or I played soccer growing up. Before a sporting event, I almost loved that anxious moment. That
it's like a little bit of adrenaline.
So yeah, I think that's more just adrenaline.
Right.
I'm not worried about that. I kind of thrive off of that. You know, when I was like on a team, that's not something I would tell my counselor about. But that like, it's happening then. It's happening through the game. It's happening after the game. It's happening at dinner. It's happening when I go to bed. When I wake up the next day, like that to me feels like, oh, this is something I need to work on. This is something I need to communicate with someone.
Yeah, and it's like something that is affecting the rest of your behaviors. So even throughout the day, like if you're like, I can't focus on this because all I can think about is that thing that's happening in 2 weeks from now that I'm stressed out of my mind to even process. That then it becomes this thing that's almost like debilitating, which I think makes anxiety such a hard thing to talk about because everybody experiences it in very different ways and lengths.
Would you say this, I'm trying to figure out if this is true or not. It seems like most negative experiences or feelings are something that's good that's been taken way too far. And I feel it's kind of similar with anxiety where it's like, it's not bad to like consider the weight of something that's coming, but when you let that consume you, that's when it gets bad for a person. Is that true?
Yeah, I was trying to think through the linear process of that, of like, it starts with stress, moves to being anxious, moves to anxiety, and then like, can that then slip into like depression?
Right.
I was just trying to think of like on the spectrum of when I've experienced, because I think I've experienced all of those and like different effects in my life of thinking, okay, when does it cross the line from being stressed to being anxious? And maybe it's starting to teeter on unhealthy. And then when have I gone into anxiety? Because I've had like panic attacks or anxiety attacks before, or there's been seasons of my life that like, I think I could look back and be like, I think I was depressed. I think it was more than just sadness. I think it was more than just worry. I think I was in a season of stuck.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure where those borderlines are, but I feel like for me, that's been the progression. I didn't deal with something at this like first moment when I started feeling stress. and I let it like consume me and take over my
snowballed,
thinking, and everything I'm doing is revolving on this one thing that I didn't take care of right away.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that I've learned to realize is actually kind of beautiful about anxiety and feeling anxious is, so this is, you can do your little shout out moment. I know you love to say shout out. So it's God just protecting us. And like, I like to now remember that when I feel anxious in moments, that's just God being like, hey, Allie, like, maybe you should get out of this, or like, this isn't going to be a place where you feel safe anymore. And it's just my brain's way of saying that. Like, even if I want to be in that situation and I know I shouldn't be, or I don't really like know how to navigate it, at the moment I start feeling anxious, it's kind of just like this, like, oh, thanks God. I was thinking it, but I didn't really know I was fully there yet. And then I start to feel anxious and I'm like, ooh, maybe I should retreat from this. However, there are times where I'm like, no, like I do really need to be in this moment. So I do have a question for you guys. Have you ever been in a situation where your anxiety has stopped you from doing something that you wish you would have done?
I have an answer. I don't know that I would even really say I have experienced anxiety. I get anxious for sure. Usually, I think a lot of times it has to do with sharing my faith. I've avoided sharing my faith with other people because of, I guess you could call it anxiety. I was afraid of what they would say about me or think about me if I did. And I knew that it would change our relationship if I broached that subject. So yeah, I think that's a scenario for me.
Yeah. I think it's confronting someone. Like,
yeah,
I really don't like confronting someone, even if it could be for their benefit or my benefit or our benefit as friends or coworkers, or if we're in a dating relationship or marriage relationship. Like, that to me brings on anxiety, because I'm thinking, like, how do I balance grace and truth? What are they going to think of me? Is this going to hurt the relationship, not help it? Is it better if I just stay in? Look what I'm even doing now. Like, my head is just like all over the place. And then all of a sudden I'm feeling like I shouldn't do this. I'm incapable of doing this. I'm not the right person to do this. And then I get stuck.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say kind of similar. Like, I'm pretty confrontational with most people when I need to be, but people that I like deeply care about, it like hurts me to be confrontational. Like, I've had friends that, like, after they break up with their boyfriend, I'm like, yeah, no, like, he was super not great. They're like, well, why didn't you tell me that while we were dating? And
Super
I'm like,
not great.
How am I supposed to? That was the kindest thing I could
That's
think
a
of.
way of saying he was the worst.
Well, yeah. But, like, how are you supposed to tell your best friend when she's dating this guy and is so in love with him that he's actually terrible?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
So then it's like an after the fact thing, and it's just like, I can see that you're hurt now, which makes me feel even worse, but I didn't know how to do it then, so I just didn't. Or like, I've had moments where, like, with coworkers where I like needed to say something, but I'm like, oh, this is gonna either affect our relationship or hurt them. And yeah, I think I'm too afraid of hurting other people, so that stops me from getting rid of the thing that I feel anxious about.
Is it true that, like, stuff you've experienced in the past, you could maybe call it even trauma, can determine how anxious you become? Like, could it heighten your anxiety based on what you've gone through in the past?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I think most definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that. I was like, that's probably, like, a massive factor.
Yeah.
Well, I think, like, a lot of it and stuff that I've figured out in counseling was just, like, there's a lot of stuff that happened in my childhood that wasn't inherently bad. It wasn't, like, this crazy childhood trauma, but it did shape the way that I looked at my life, the way that I looked at relationships, the way that I viewed certain things that then caused some of my anxiety. But it wasn't this, like, big event that sometimes you hear is like, oh, that's the reason why they have that reaction to things. It was just like, that's how I grew up, so that's now how I view the world.
Yeah.
Take it back to the Worldview podcast. You can check that one out.
It's like a buildup.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like there was one moment. And sometimes it is like a moment.
Yeah.
Like, there are times in my life that I have trauma. Like, there is a moment that I can go back to. There's other things that I now see that have shaped who I am and my thinking and my actions that was like what you said. This was a situation I was in for years and didn't even realize it until something later came up and it like triggered something. And I was like, this, like, there's something here and I don't know what it is. That's when, like, go to Jesus, go to a counselor.
Yeah.
Like, those are the two things that help you process either those, that moment or that life stage that, like, maybe this isn't the way God originally intended it to be before sin came into the world.
Yeah, well, it's probably a word for somebody because I don't know the statistics, like 50% of people 18 to 24 are experiencing anxiety. I think it's something like that. But that means 50% are not. And I feel like I'm kind of maybe more in that camp, but I need to be careful that I'm not assuming everyone is like me and invalidating other people's experiences because I didn't have the same ones. So like if your past is like creating trauma that I don't have, I can't put my life onto yours and say, you need to just suck it up or like deal with it, figure it out, because my experience has been different than your experience and everybody's past informs where they go in the future. That's a word for me, I guess.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Oh, and I think it's hard because our culture has so negatively like said, like they've used the word trigger in such a negative way that actually I think when you have anxiety, knowing what triggers you and it not being like, oh, I'm triggered and I'm going to like leave the room.
Right.
But just be like, oh, that's a thing that now I'm aware of and I need to think about it. And then like if you have a friend that is like you, Adam, and you're like, oh, I don't know, like I don't have these feelings and I don't have these triggers, but I know that this is going to affect my friend.
Yeah.
Like having those people in your corner is so helpful. Because then, like, you might not even notice it, and your friend is just like, hey, that's, like, just so you know, that just happened, and I don't want you to feel anxious about it, so I'm telling you about it now.
Wow, yeah. Like looking out for your friends by knowing about what's going to trigger them.
Yeah, and that's just, like, I think what you said at the very start of this, of, like, you have to have those good friends. And it's sometimes super uncomfortable to say, like, hey, these are the emotions that I have, and these are the things that trigger me, but when you do have those friends that know that, like the power that can come from just those relationships being formed in those moments and then stopping having those emotions sometimes because you can help them is so beneficial. And like I have friends that are like that, and it has really helped in a lot of situations where things could have gone really badly for me and I would have probably been stuck having an anxiety attack, but my friends were able to like call it out. Right. And I was just able to kind of live my normal life instead of being overwhelmed by anxiety.
I think it's like most things. It's how you do it with your friends. Like when you have a friend who's experiencing anxiety or stress or depression, and you're trying to be a good friend, it is important what you say, but it's how you say it. Like it's unbelievable a word that is said with humility and gentleness, and one that's just like bold and not thought out. You can say the same thing, not graceful, has two totally different effects. Like Jesus talked about it all the time. In Matthew, he said, like, and I will teach them to be humble and gentle because I am humble and gentle in heart.
Right.
Like, oh, you can learn to be humble. You can learn to be gentle. Like, I don't think I'm naturally gentle, but like, through spending time with Jesus, through tools that my counselor has given me, like I can learn to be gentle and be a better friend to help others because others have helped me so much through those seasons.
That's good,
yeah. Is there like a verse or something that you can think about from the Bible that if you or a friend was struggling with anxiety or feeling anxious, you might kind of go to? Or
I think of a couple. Well, one, Romans 12, 1 and 2 talks about not being conformed to the patterns of the world, but instead letting God transform your mind. I think there's something there about just like God actually can change your mind. He works through scripture to like change the way that your brain is. I think there's something there. And then one that when I'm like feeling anxious or worried about something, I'll recite Psalm 23. The Lord's my shepherd. I have everything that I need. And like, even when you're walking through the valley of the shadow of death, God is still close beside you, even in that moment. So that's been helpful for me.
Yeah. In like one of my hardest days, like 24 hours, I had an interaction with like a dear friend, and we were talking, and she said there's two things about God that are always true and never change no matter what our circumstances are. It's that God is sovereign, meaning that God's in control of all things. He either makes it happen or allows it to happen. He's in control, and he's good. Those two things are always the same, because in my worst day, it feels like God's not in control and that he's not good.
Right.
Like the situation feels so bad. How can God be good in the situation? And there's times where I just have to believe in my mind, I know God's in control and I know he's good. And every situation comes out. That tends to be true. Not tends. That is always true on the backside of it. And so, man, I just go to passages in scripture where I see God's control and I see God's care and his love. Like Romans 8:32, like comes to mind. Like God is going to work all things for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Do I believe God is going to use all things? This terrible situation, diagnosis of cancer, divorce, whatever it is, can God use this for my good?
Yeah.
And I believe he does.
Yeah. One thing that helped me a lot when I was in high school was, I don't know what verse it is. Maybe you guys do. But it's the moment where it just is like if you're anxious, like look at the birds.
Yeah, Matthew 6.
Yeah.
I thought it was Matthew, but I didn't want to mess that one up. So like something that always kind of helped me when I was anxious was just like going outside, like feeling fresh air, just like being grounded with the world, I guess. But like animals and birds, like they're just so funny. And I would just kind of go outside and I would just like watch
Look at the
them.
funny birds.
Yeah, because it would help me get like off of my mind and thinking about like birds really, like they're just flying around having a good day.
Birding around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
But
with their beaks and feathers, just being birds.
Yeah, but it helped me not think about me, but think about other things and think about like God also made those birds and they're just such small creatures. So like, it's okay. And like, it sounds terrible, but like life will go on.
Have you heard that song, Sparrows by Corey Asbury?
No.
It's a beautiful song, but it's about that. It's about Matthew 6, like 28 to 34, about like God's got you. Like, look at the sparrows. They're not worried about a thing.
I bet I would like that song.
I love that you read that passage and you think like, I love birds. I'm going to go outside and look at birds. And it's like a beautiful reminder of like, God cares so much about them. How much does he care about me? I read that verse and be like, I hate birds.
It's not
If God's going to love such an obnoxious, terrible animal, how much more does he love humans? We end at the same point, but we completely divert in two different ways.
It's not like that I'm like, oh, I love birds, but it's just that like, it's a reminder that there's more in the world than just me. Because I think sometimes when I get anxious, I'm like, my whole world is crumbling. Yeah. The whole world isn't crumbling. Like, just maybe a relationship is. It's not like the earth is physically imploding. So then I can go outside and be like, the birds are still flying. Yeah. Life is good.
I think we have to remember that God is in the business of redeeming things.
Yeah.
That we can look at a situation, and I believe my God is big enough and strong enough and powerful enough, loving enough, graceful enough that he's going to take that and he can redeem it. Like, nothing is beyond hope. As long as there's breath in my lungs, I know God exists, even separate of me having breath in my lungs, and he is powerful enough to redeem this broken situation. As bad as your anxiety is, as bad as your depression is, as bad as your situation is, my God is powerful enough. He's loving enough to redeem that broken situation.
Say that. Let go.
So I would love for us to answer some students' questions.
Oh, I like it.
All right. Oh, I didn't. We're going to get into it.
Come on.
What they got for us?
So some of these are really good questions. So thank you guys all for sending in your questions on Instagram. So let's start out. We pretty much answered
Good choice.
This. What was it?
Pumpkin?
I got one of
the pumpkins are better.
A waxy pumpkin.
Oh, don't say it.
Oh,
I just ruined it. I'll never have one again. So we did kind of answer this a little bit earlier, but I think there is some more that we can probably talk about this. So the question is, what can I say/do to support my friends who are struggling without just saying, pray about it? So they're struggling with anxiety. And what else can you say besides just pray about it?
Man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It stinks.
Yeah.
I think just like empathy, leading with empathy. And I'm a fixer naturally. Like I want to fix situations or things that are broken, and that can be a good thing. But I think through being married, I've realized there's just times that you just have to be like, I'm just sorry, and just hurt with them for a little bit. And then don't leave, like be there. Something about physically even being with someone. Dude, I can call you and I can pray for you on the phone. And there's something about me going and sitting with you, still praying for you, praying with you. But there's something about like this that's like just so important. Like there's friends that I've said, like, no matter where you are in the world, like if something goes down, I will be there. You know, and it's a small group. That's my inner circle. But there's something about just saying, yeah, that stinks.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's... And I also think if you don't know what they're going through, it's okay to say that too. Like you don't need to make it like pretend like you know what they're going through. You can be like, hey, I don't understand, but I'm here to be with you and listen.
Yeah.
And I think that goes a long ways. I think there's value in that.
Yeah.
What would you say, Allie? I'm interested.
I think like I would definitely lead with empathy of just like, I don't want you to be hurting right now. Like, please, like, let me know what you want me to do in this moment. Like, I'm also naturally a fixer. Like, do you want me to help you try to solve this issue? Do you want me to fix it? Do you want me to be here to listen? Do you want me to just be a shoulder to cry on? Do you want me to, like, I have a friend who, when she's feeling anxious, like, she wants me to ramble about whatever I can ramble about because it will get her mind off of that thing. So asking someone like what they need in that moment, I think sometimes is really important because we can just assume, but until we ask them, like you never know if you have a friend who just wants you to like be silly and goofy so they can get out of that headspace. And you might try to be super serious and they're like, I just needed you to like try to dance in front of me and it'd be weird so I could laugh about it.
I want to say this too, because the question mentioned prayer. I don't think you should undersell prayer.
Yes.
Because I think that's the recipe for every single person who's dealing with anxiety. That's the first place you start is you bring God into the situation. So yeah, don't tell them you should pray about your own anxiety, but pray with them. Say, I am praying with you and for you. Just the other day, I had a friend come to me. He's been experiencing anxiety for years, he said. And this past couple of weeks, we've been praying. A group of us have been praying for him and with him. And he said, I haven't felt anxiety this week for the first time in years.
That's awesome.
And I believe it's because of the power of prayer, not because of his life situation or circumstances. It's because people are praying over, with, and for him. So I don't think saying to someone, I'm praying for you, I don't think that's invaluable. I think it's invaluable. Like, I think it's so valuable.
Yeah. And if you say I'm going to pray for you, then like pray for them.
Right.
Please do
Like so
it.
many times, like, oh man, praying for you, prayers up.
Yeah.
And then you just like never actually go to God.
Did you know an emoji does not count as a prayer?
I was going to say, don't just send the prayer hands and walk away.
Doesn't
Oh, I thought it
actually
was a
count.
high five.
It could be both, maybe.
Ooh, gotta be careful how you send that now.
Oh, no. Okay. So another question is, why is it so hard to give up my anxiety and depression to God instead of letting it control me? It's difficult.
Real easy question to answer.
Yep.
Well, you brought it up earlier, Drew. We live in a fallen world that sin has broken and messed up. We're part of it. Our bodies are messed up. Our minds are messed up. I think that's why it's hard, because we're still living in a world that's not perfect yet. Mm-hmm. And God is redeeming us and changing our hearts and our minds, but not fully.
I like that. Not perfect yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Hope. I love that. Yeah, it's really good. I think because I want to be in control. Mm-hmm. When things seem to feel out of control, I can fix this. I want to hold on. I don't trust other people. I trust myself. I want to hold on. And it's so hard to like let go and trust God. And
Yeah, I think we want to not burden other people with our anxiety or depression, and we feel like even sometimes we're going to burden God with it.
Yeah.
And that's so false. But it's hard to wrap your mind around sometimes. And then it's giving up control. It is letting go. It is inviting God into something that you're struggling with, when we don't always want to, because we want to appear perfect when God already knows. So like, don't be afraid of it, because when you do invite God into it, that's when like you will be transformed, and that's when things can start to change.
That's great.
I think just because some people have misused prayer, or they've said things about like, oh, you just need to trust God more, you're not trusting God enough. Just because that's been misused and has hurt people doesn't mean that there's not still truth in that.
Right.
There still is power in prayer. God still needs to be a part of the situation.
Yep.
But sometimes you just don't have the tools, and you need to go to a counselor that can give you those tools. But that doesn't alleviate or take away the importance of having God in that situation.
And God works through counselors.
Huge.
And through
Huge.
other people in your life. So
Yes.
God is the foundation and the base layer, and the Holy Spirit that lives in believers. Like, that's the foundation for everything that we're talking
Yes.
about.
Good.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much just for talking about anxiety. This is a super important topic. And I just want to reiterate the fact that we said a couple times. But if you do feel like you need a counselor, like, lean in. It is where you can have those conversations. You can learn the things that might trigger you. You could talk to them about what it would look like for you to invite God in to your anxiety. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
And come back in a couple weeks where we will be talking about fear.